We've now finished up our reducer. In this video, I want to mention one quick thing that you need to be aware of. As we went through our reducer, remember we referred to this action object right here essentially as how to change state. It's an object that you and I are going to essentially define when we pass an argument into our dispatch function down here. So you and I have total control over what that action object looks like. We can put any properties into it that we want. However, usually there are some community conventions that we follow. Now, let me be clear, you do not have to follow these community conventions. You don't have to follow them at all. Totally optional. But if you want some other engineer to look at your code and instantly understand what's going on, you might decide to follow these conventions. So let me show you what they are. Okay, so our action object had properties of color to change, of like red, and then an amount. But usually, by convention, our action objects are going to have two different properties. The first one will be type. That's going to be a string that describes the exact change operation that we want to run inside of our reducer. And then secondly, we'll have a payload property. There will be some data that's absolutely critical to initiating or actually executing that change operation. So if we wanted to follow community convention for our action object, we would use a type of something like change red, because we're describing the type of operation we want to run. We want to make a change to the property red. And then payload, in our case, would be 15. That's how much we want to change red by. Now, if we start to use community convention right here, our reducer technically is going to get a little bit more complicated. So I want to refactor our action object to follow community convention. When we do, you're going to notice that, yes, the reducer gets a little bit more complicated. And so I will leave it up to you to decide whether or not you want to make use of action objects that just make sense to you and are convenient to you, or if you want to follow community convention. Again, it's 100% in your court. You can decide what you want to do. Okay, so let's give this a shot. I'm going to flip back over to a square screen. I'm going to change my action comment right here. So I'm going to say that action, rather than saying simply color to change instead is going to be a type property. So the type is going to describe the exact change that we want to make to our state. Now, there's not necessarily any meaning to this string. It's only meaningful to you and I as developers. So I'm going to decide to use a type of change underscore red, change underscore green, and change underscore blue, like so. And then rather than having an amount, we want that to be payload instead. So at this point, I just changed the comment. That doesn't actually change anything. We now have to actually go around our reducer and our component and actually initiate these changes or make them effective. So let's first start inside of our component. So we'll go down to square screen. We're going to have to go around to all of our different dispatch functions that we call inside of here and change these to type and payload. So I'm going to first take care of amount because that one's a little bit easier. So I'm going to change amount 6 times because we call dispatch 6 times inside of our JSX block here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Next up, we're going to go around to all of our different color to change statements or properties inside of our JSX block once again. There are 6 of them. We're going to change color to change to be simply type instead. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oh, there we go. And then finally, we need to change the actual type property values. We don't have red, blue, or green anymore. If we're following community convention, it would instead be change red or change blue. So I will change the type of red to change underscore red, change underscore red, change underscore blue, change underscore blue. And then down here on the last one, change underscore green, and change underscore green. Okay, so there's all of our different dispatch statements changed. So now we need to go and update our reducer as well. Here's my reducer. I'm going to find my switch statement. The first thing we have to do is say, rather than doing a switch on color to change, we're going to decide what state update we want to run based upon the type property. So rather than switching over action.color to change, we're going to instead switch over action.type. And then we can update the text inside of our 3 case statements. So I'll do change red, change green, and change blue. Now here's where life gets really painful. we no longer have that like nice variable to refer to inside of here. So, well, we got state.read, that's going to work, but we have to go all around and we have to update action.amount all over the place. So now we've got to update that in like 9 places inside of here between the entire switch statement. I've got 1, 2, 3 inside of each case statement. So I'll do action.payload 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So let's save this once again, flip back over, and yep, still turning red, still going blue, and still going green. So as usual, if you now see an error message or if the application is not working, guarantee you just made a typo somewhere inside of here. So do a little hunting. You're going to want to find where you made that typo. So now I got a question for you. Is our code any better at this point? Maybe not. Yeah, I would say no, probably not. I don't think it's necessarily any better. I wouldn't say it's better, easier to read. I don't know. So like I said, if you want to use your own action objects and just throw on the properties you want yourself, just go for it. Absolutely, just go for it. Otherwise, by convention, we're going to use the type property with payload. Inside this course, we are going to follow convention because that is convention, and in general, I want to always teach you community convention inside of a course. But just between you and me, if you decide not to follow that convention, the world is not going to end. Let's put it that way. All right, so this looks pretty good. I think that we've got our reducer put together. So quick pause right here, continue in next video.